This week on Starting Over, we continue our conversation with Collene Bridgeman, who moved to New York City as a teen. Now a teacher, she has embraced her childhood exposure to farming and is now the teacher farmer.
When I got out here and I saw that there was no land. Remember the first thing I said? I went outside and there were no trees. There was no trees. Nobody had land doing anything outside. That was a culture shock because you're used to seeing people early in the morning. They're tying out their goats and their sheep and they're going to the farm. And you see them late in the evening doing the same thing. We take those things for granted. And we come out to the concrete jungle. They literally call it the concrete jungle for a reason. It's only concrete. That's what it is. So when I came to understand it was when I found out that my grandmother was sick. It broke me.
Okay.
It broke me because, I'm like, wow, this is a solid part of me that is fading away. I have no control. So what I did, I started planting things in my backyard. I went and I cleaned it up. And I started planting things. And I used
to in essence, this is in memory of your grandma.
Absolutely. And I used to call her in the morning when I was in New Jersey and she was in Brooklyn. And, I would show her, like, look at what I have, and I knew that it was going to make her proud. It was going to bring about a sense of someone is going to carry the legacy for me. One of the things that we spoke about before she passed is her regret of not, doing more around agriculture. And one of the things that she said was, I wished I did more. I wish I learned more. I could have been so much more farther, in agriculture if I understood it. And that sank in for me because I'm just like, well, what more could you do? We didn't get to understand that agriculture is more than just going in the farm
just planting and picking, just planting and picking and selling, agro processing, taking it somewhere, doing more with it. Yeah.
Deeper than that, Savannah. So when I started planting, the feelings I got when I was out there in the space, we used to be, and don't get me wrong, I used to be mad when we had to go to the farm, okay? Because that meant work. That meant we had to work. You hear me? And my grandmother, if anybody knows, right? Hardworking, on business. So when you hear her say, okay, we're going to Canal, and then we're going to Canal, and then we're going to Toby, and then we got to go to Malfoot. Who happy about that? Because we got to do the work. Chris and Linda, all the time. We had to build bunkers. We were burning coals. We were building things with all kinds of stuff around the house. You hear me? And then grandma would be the person, be like, take this lettuce and that carrot to this person and go bring it to that person and go take this here. And you were mad. But because you didn't understand the value of being able to feed your people. See? You didn't understand the value that it was that you didn't have to work for no one. You didn't see that. So when I was planting in my backyard, it was therapeutic. I felt so relieved being an educator is a stressful job. It really is. But when you can escape into a place where you have no control of what's happening in that space, but you are only able to embrace the things that you can there. I can't control what grows and what does not. I can't control what if the birds are going to eat the plants, if the squirrels are going to, if raccoons are going to, but I'm grateful every morning I come out and they're there and I can smell them. I can pick peppers from. I can get cabbages from. I have herbs that I can use. I can drink teas from. How are you not grateful for that? And then, working with students with disabilities, I'm like, wow, this is my experience with my own garden. How can I bring that to my classroom? How can I
Mm.
have children put their hands in the soil and feel that sense of peace, relaxation? Take your shoes off and step on some grass. So I used to take them to the park, the botanical garden. Take your shoes off. And you see the shift. It's like, wow, go hug a tree. And they're like, Miss B, but I feel it. Absolutely. Because you get a sense of understanding that you are not just walking around this earth by yourself. We
You're
share a
part of
space.
an ecosystem.
We share a space. This is nature. And
Mhm.
I think where, growing up, we kind of missed that mark is, gardening was work.
Yeah, we did not see the therapy in it. We did not value what that could do for us. I
One,
myself, I didn't grow up in the garden much. Although my parents were farmers, I always tell people
yeah,
that I don't know how to grow anything. The reason being, when I was about 6 or 7 years old, my mom brought me to mango. Well, because we grew up in the same
yes.
area, so we know the different parts. She brought me to mango, and she left me and went somewhere. And little me stand up in all this bush, and I saw something slither, so I decided it was a snake. So I started to jump
Oh
and
my God.
jump and did not know I was jumping in a woman's bed of carrots.
Oh boy. Oh
So
boy.
the woman literally pick up she cutlass and she said, "You're not coming behind me again. I'm gonna plant you."
Listen, if she didn't, that would not be a true farmer. Okay? If she didn't, because there's always that cutlass waving when they talking to you.
Yes. So
That's the
I was
person.
like, since after that, she said, "You're not coming behind me." So that was my stay
Yeah.
home thing.
Yes, stay
No, no, no,
home.
sorry, I struggle. No,
Not
no, 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 no,
helping.
sorry, I struggle. That's
You're
all
not
she
helping.
said.
You're not helping. You're slowing down the process in their book, in their mind. You're killing the progress. You stay home. You totally. But that's the thing. We saw it as work. We saw it as a
Yeah.
task that we didn't want to partake in. It was a force, you know, but I respected the nutmeg because that's what brought me my economic independence, right? I respected
Excellent.
it because I'm like, and listen, when I went there, I think one day I went and I had maybe like a half a bag. Things were slow. And I still walked out there with like 50 something dollars. Who could talk to me? Excuse me? Who could talk to me? Who could tell me anything? Okay, I was set for the week. No one's telling me anything, right? I can eat as
Good.
much
That is economic independence. Right
economic
there.
independence. And mind you, my secondary school time, I was a really like skinny girl, right? But I used to put down. So when I get to lunch and I could buy a roti and I could buy a cheese pie and I could buy three things and eat and I'm like unbothered. Okay? Unbothered.
You got it
Not
covered.
stretching. You have a respect for it because it taught me that I could do this, right? This is something that I can do that would not, and I think also too, um, most people, and I don't want to speak for everyone, they do not see the economics independence when it comes to farming. It's like a dirty
Yes.
thing.
And stick a pin there. Where you're talking about economic independence, one thing comes to mind, and one of the good things about what occurred with you is the fact that they gave you a nutmeg card, so you saw the
Yes,
dollars and cents.
yes,
If
yes,
parents were to realize that could be a motivator for the children, then we would have more respect for the nutmeg,
yes,
more
yes,
respect for the cabbage, more respect for instead of sometimes you go, you work the land with your parents and you get nothing in return and they would tell you you're getting food and clothing and
yes,
shelter.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if you want to
yes,
share in the monetary gains, like, you go and sell and you say, they tell you like 10% is yours.
yeah,
I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I'm selling. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, the beauty of being an educator, you're able to show students the connection to everything that they do, right? So, as you were saying, if you're taking your child to the farm and you say, hey, you give them a task. I think one of the things, like, let's correct your mom, right? She brought you to the farm and she should have gave you a task. Like, listen, this is your spot. This is your space. I
Mm,
want you to clean that up. Okay. And when you're done, I give you $5 or I give you $10. That's a motivation for them to not only see one, I
certainly,
task. Two,
certainly.
I was able to complete this task. And three, there is an award or reward attached to the things that I'm doing. I think a lot of the times, us as parents, we don't show children why they're doing something. We just tell them, do this, go to the
Do as
farm.
I say. Do as
Yes,
I say. And that does not work. It
it
never
doesn't
worked.
work because they're not giving a clear explanation on the why. The why is always very important. You have to humble yourself or come out of yourself to say, well, they need clarity.
Mhm.
That's all they're really asking for
But
when they
if
ask
but
why.
if you're honest, you remember people like your mom, your grandma, and my mom, they hated why. My mother
Yes.
would say
Oh,
straight,
yeah.
why is a crooked letter. Leave
It
me alone.
Listen, I still use Y as a crooked letter up to the day, right? You know, but it's inconvenience. It's convenience because sometimes it's like I've said it 3 times and then you'll ask me why again. Okay, so why is a crooked letter in the alphabet? You go find it and ask it. Okay, that's me. Go find it and then ask it because I do not know. But, I think it's a beautiful thing when you could explain to children why they're doing something and
Yes.
give them, a sense of involvement, a sense of being able to contribute to what you're doing, right? And I saw that because grandma was always one to explain. She
Nice.
is explained. I was behind her tail, like, I'm here. The beauty of, growing up with your grandmothers, I think they're more patient, so they explain everything to you. And so, I would love to say that I'm an old soul because I had both of them. And both were never afraid to tell me, like, talk to me about my whys. And I had so many. So I asked questions for everything. You know me, like I was always that curious child, like I want to know, I want to learn, I want to be a part of. So she never hesitated to give me an explanation of why. So grandma, why you're just taking the cutlass and you're juking this thing and then you're putting why? Well, sometimes it's the simplest thing to do. Certain things you're planting don't need a lot of maintenance. You just dig a hole, put it in, and you leave it, let it do its thing. Other things you saw she was more delicate. She gave more attention to, and you get to see there are different aspects, different components of planting things. So, well, why you gonna cut the fig and layer it in the pit before you start putting the wood and stuff like that when you're burning coals. And she'll explain. But she also involved us in things, especially when it comes to burning stuff. Children, all we love fire. We love matches. Tell us we're gonna go burn something. I'm all for it. Let's go. So the beauty of getting children involved in things that you're doing, when I say to my students, we're going to plant something, I'm not hovering. I give them a sense of discovery. Go figure it out, right? I'll
Mhm.
I'll model for you the first time. but I am not taking over on your experience of this thing. So when I started cleaning up the backyard and my sons were like, Mom, what are you doing? And I explained like, hey, I want to start planting because this is just space. It's just sitting there. It's not doing anything. We have access to it. Why not? And I got them involved. I got them involved. So they're not afraid of being outside and getting their hands dirty. They understand in their own right why it's important, why, you know,
Huh.
they should be involved.
Do you think you would ever transition back and start over in Grenada with the nutmeg and everything else anytime
Listen,
soon?
I am just waiting. You hear me? And I want to say this. I've never felt at home in America. America's not my home. Grenada is my home and it would always be my home. And I love my people to the point where I've tried to transition. When my grandmother passed, I felt like it was a calling for me to do that. And I did come. I did speak to the Minister of Education in regards to transitioning. Um, but one of the responses that I got was, as a teacher, teaching in America, we cannot afford to pay you a salary. And my thing was, well, trade me some land then, I'm here negotiating a transition with you because again, when the new administration came in, they said, hey, we're calling people from the diaspora. Listen, music to my ear, but it didn't work out like that. Am I going to stop? No. I am laying a bedrock for the return. I am laying a foundation for the return because I think that we as a people in Grenada do not embrace farming as we should.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think that the youths have the exposure really necessary in order to love it and understand it for what it is, in a sense that it is the bedrock of our country and the economy. Without food, we're nobody. We're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants and needs to eat, right? And so if not now, when would we wake up and see the importance of agriculture? So that is something that I'm always gearing up for. I always say someone sings me the right song and I'm gone. Okay. I'm gone. I am gone, but I see that there are things needed to be done first here in order to really be successful in Grenada. Um, Grenada is not really moving, I think, at a pace that welcomes people that want to do business readily. I want to say it was really hard when you're going and you're asking questions and it's no stationary place that you can find all of these details. It's like you have to go here and then you have to go here and then you have to go here. It gets really exhausting. But to answer the question, absolutely, I will transition in a heartbeat, given the right climate where I can come and be the teacher farmer there and bring that awareness. That is my goal. That is my goal as a teacher farmer to bring that aspect of farming to Grenada. And it's already there, but I don't think that people really see it in its true value just yet.
Did you coin the term teacher farmers or has it been out there before? What?
I coined the term and I hope no one goes to use it because then I'll get money from you.
Well, you need, or you have you,
Absolutely locked it in.
okay,
Absolutely locked it in.
okay,
I
okay,
put no games, okay? America is America for a reason, okay? You snooze on it, you lose on it. So
true.
definitely coined it. But I think it came about just infusing my profession with my passion, or I want to switch it out because it has always been a part of me. So infusing my passion with my profession because the profession comes after. It's an
Mm.
extension of who you are. I think agriculture and farming is me in every essence of the word. I was born into a family of farming. My grandmother, I never grew up watching her work for anyone. So it is me. it's running in my DNA. Like I get home, the first thing I want to do is be outside. Like I am not an indoorsy person, never been. So I'm outside, I'm like, okay, what's going on back here? Like, did anyone mess with you? Like I'm talking to the birds out there, like, guys, we
That's
gotta
beautiful.
get
That's
together.
beautiful. You have a
Absolutely.
relationship with nature because
Yes,
as a child, you said you taught the chickens, you taught the
absolutely.
trees.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything. Like it was that thing where and listen, my chickens were attentive to me, okay?
Oh, Lord.
They listened. Everything I learned, everything, and shout out to all. Constantine gave me an experience that I would never forget. I think
Constantine Methodist School.
Constantine Methodist School. This is where I went. This is where I got my rooting. And listen, I remember, and I'm just begging that every government brings it back. I don't care 10, 15 years down the line that they bring back school kitchen gardens. It's
They,
really
they are. They are. They are.
beautiful. Beautiful. It's really important because to see, I think someone gifted the school a goat. We had rabbits. They gave the older boys an opportunity to come out on Fridays and plant their own food. Who, how can you erase that experience? How
Wonderful.
can you not want to keep doing this? To not to be funny, but it freed you from working. Like the pencils and the paper don't always work. Not everyone is academically savvy. Like you can sit down in front of a book and absorb knowledge. Sometimes knowledge is absorbed when you're using your hands. And
Certainly.
and sometimes, us as educators, we have this one size fits all mentality. Like it's the pencil and the paper and that's it. But
Wow.
you take someone outside and you show them how to build something with their hands, and you'll see a totally different child show up in front of you. So, again, when I tell you farming is so multidimensional, it gives you everything just bundled in one. You're hands on, you can read, you can apply. It's learning is a beautiful thing when you're involving nature. And I think that is where my passion, my flame, my fire comes because I appreciate it much better today. I
It's
do.
emanating from you as you speak. It's bleeding from you as you speak. What
Man,
would you say to your 10-year-old self if you could go back to her? Would you change anything? What would you say to her?
I wouldn't change absolutely anything. I think the path that I walked is the reason why I am the way that I am and who I am today. Um, and because I had to embrace everything in a mystery form because we don't know. We don't know. But I think the gift is when you get to a point where you can make those connections and appreciate. What I would say is, I appreciate my 10-year-old self for embracing, the nutmeg book, embracing, my grandmother taking me to the farm and saying, hey, this is your job. Every hole gets a corn and a peas. Every hole, this is your job. And us doing it diligently, I would applaud her and say, I'm grateful that you didn't, rebel against it. I'm grateful that your 10-year-old self loved it. I want to say to her, like, hey, look at where we are now. It's kind of like a reflection of all the things you loved before, just reflecting right back to you as you are now. I would tell her, don't change a thing.
I
Absolutely not.
think listening to you, I think that you have you have come full circle.
Yes.
Even though you're in New York, even though you're a teacher, but in your bones, in who you are that farmer raised
Yes.
by Miss Bridgman.
Yes. You know, I also want to give my other grandmothers a lot of credit too, especially my great grandmother on my father's side. She was a tiny little woman. You can't say tiny and little at the same time because that would make her really small. But she was a giant in her own right. Seeing a woman maybe 4 feet tall, going and she's with 3 bags on her head and she's going far. Because if anyone knows Cancelo, it's down in a hole, right? And she was down there by herself, farming by herself. And
Mhm.
she was one of those who did a lot of explaining to me. We had a lot of hours of talking, and her just telling me about how they grew up. She worked on a plantation. You hear me? So for me, the reverence of coming from that lineage, she worked on the plantation down in Grenville, Mr. Hubby, if people knew, and she was, imagine to hear, you know, working on a plantation is heavy. Look at what the world is today. You have to honor these people because it's hard when you're building someone else's dream and their legacy and they're limiting what you can do with yours. But she was able to work and buy her own land to provide that her grandchildren and her great grandchildren can see something solid from all her hard work. And I remember, we used to go down in Cancelo as a little girl, and I was so tiny enough to fit under those big dashing leaves. And the pumpkins were so big, right? We had to cut them before we can transport them back to the house. They were so huge. And, I give them their honor and their praise because it humbles me today, understanding that that woman didn't work for nobody.
This is
And
awesome because listening to you again, I keep saying listening to you, but the fact of the matter is, you and I and the majority of us here in Grenada come from farming.
yeah,
Many of us run from it because, as you rightfully say, it's work, hard
yeah,
work. We don't see the returns. But your honor and respect for your grandparents shine through because you are able to not just see it as work, but you see it as life. You
yes,
see it as therapy. You see it as, it's basically you're honoring them through your life,
yeah,
honoring farming. And as I said before, many of us who grew up in farming communities run from it
yeah,
because all we knew was the hard work. So
yeah,
nobody wanted to touch the soil. And granted, it is hard work,
it is.
but when you speak about it, the passion is there. And I'm seeing that you're making changes, you're touching lives, you're touching the young lives because of your heritage. You have brought it to New York, you're exposing the children to it, and because of that, I give you reverence.
Ah,
Thank you so much.
thank you. I'm humbled by it because, I'm humbled by the people that came before me. The reward is when you hear children saying, you get calls from parents like, who's Miss Bridgman? And it's like, oh, you're speaking to Miss Bridgman. My kid is talking about being a farmer. Like, what? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. And parents, one parent came up to the school. She needed to put a face to the name. Like, who are you? Like, everything my child is talking about is him and Miss Bridgman are going to farm and they're going to plant this. And mom, we planted that. That's the reward. That is a thank you to those that came before us. Because when you think of the education system in America, it doesn't provide that. They are in a classroom space. They're required to sit for hours out of the day and someone just standing in front of them and just talking, and it's you want them to, okay, pay attention and listen to me, and this, it's you're wasting your time because they're when they have checked out, they have checked out. But
Certainly, certainly, certainly.
But
Certainly.
when you're able to incorporate different forms of learning, it becomes a rhythm. It becomes something that is not forced. So I can say, okay, in the morning, we are going to do this work, but this work is still incorporating the nature, agriculture, right? And then you can go outside, we can take nature walks. Most of the times, you go out and on walks, and children are not even mindful of their communities. They're not
No,
even mindful of their
not only
environment.
children, not only children, adults too, because adults are thinking about the bills, about the job they
Yeah,
hate, about the husband or the wife they just want to run away from.
absolutely. You
So,
are,
and
that's the key.
if many people were to see farming as therapy,
That's
see
the
it through
therapy.
your eyes, the way in which you express it, the way in which you live it,
Yeah.
because you are giving the children an experience that they would never forget. Grant, you're
No,
saying that their parents are coming to see who you are.
you are. Yes.
Miss
They're coming.
Bridgeman, we need you in Grenada.
Listen,
Hello.
I would love
Constantine needs you.
there.
Wesley
Listen.
College needs you.
And listen to me. I sat down one day and I sketched out my goal is, and I'm going to stand on it. I don't care rain, sun, sleet, shine, snow, whatever. I definitely want to rebuild my Wesley College. You hear me? I have a whole plan that I did, and the beauty of AI is you send them, this is Wesley College, and you say, hey, create me a whole new school, which I want this and I want that, and I want a farming space. And when I show you, but I think, they used to have like a nice garden space in the back of our beautiful school. And I was so disappointed when they didn't continue it because that was something that I wanted to do. But then we had debating and we had young leaders and we had junior achievers. And those are really critical activities and programs that schools need to bring back because you are giving students an opportunity to be positively busy, understanding the business world, understanding the hands on world. That, it's great to be, a banker. It's great to be a police officer. But let me tell you something. It's also beautiful to be a farmer. Okay? Farmers take their water boots off, they change their clothes, they shower, and they're like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the thing is, um, when you think of I go to Home Depot and I go to Lowe's and I get me the 2 cubic feet bags of soil. I lift that by myself. You know the workout I'm getting? Okay? Farming is not just this dirty thing. It's exercise. It's you're thinking about how you're going to design that. That's critical thinking
Yes.
because not every crop goes with another, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I companion plant all of the things that I have in my garden, right? Because you want pollinators to come in and you want your garden to be rich, right? So you need your birds, you need the bees, you need the butterflies, you need those pollinators. So you have to be a critical thinker to say, well, what goes where with who? That's mental skill. Then you think of the physical benefits of you having to move things, man. Cleaning up back there, I had to dig, okay? I had to get physical. It's work, but it's beautiful work because my body could thank me for it today, right? And my mind could thank me for it today. And just being able to share it with my neighbor, he opens the window and he's like, oh my God, I just love looking out the window because I get to see something so beautiful. And now I am not only giving myself that therapy, I'm helping my neighbors. right? I can go across the street to the community center and I say, hey, if you guys need to have a summer program for the kids that are coming to your center, I'm always happy to come and we can plant things, we can learn things, and we can grow things right here in our space. It's so many things that farming does to a person if we embrace it for what it truly is.
It's interesting. We started talking about, but it still fits in starting over, you moving to America. But what it is that it's the transition into who you really are and embracing that
Yeah,
farmer girl, that farmer teacher. And I
yes,
am so blessed to know you, to share this with the rest of my community,
yes.
that there are different aspects of starting over. Before we leave, I just want to ask you, you shared nuggets, you shared so much. What would you like to say to anybody out there who might just be moving to America, who might be thinking about moving back to Grenada to become a farmer, and everybody's like, you're crazy, how you can do this, how you can do that, blah 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 blah. What do you say to that person?
Don't listen to what anyone has to say. I think if you listen to people, you would stay stagnated. You would be afraid, to do things. I've never embraced America as home, but it's been home. If you do the math, I've been here more than I've been in Grenada, but you can't take Grenada out of me. But when you tell people like I want to leave New York and go back to Grenada, of course, for the amount of crazies I've been called for even thinking that thought out loud, I would have never had my garden. I would have never been able to honor my grandparents the way that I am today, or the people who came before them and who came before me. I think as long as you are going to build your people, go do it. As long as you are going to be an agent of change in a positive way, go do it. If you ever wake up one day and you say, I want to go farm, because it's not your physical form calling you to do it, it's your soul calling you to do it. When you ignore your soul, you're not happy. And it tells you when you're not happy.
Oh
And as long as
yeah, I know.
you're dodging it, you're going to just remain in that space. You know, we have to build home. If not us, who? Right? So
Mhm.
I would encourage people who are coming to America to not forget where you came from. And people who are leaving America, thank America for the experiences that allow you to be grateful for your roots back home. Right? So it's not one without the other. I think anywhere in the world you are, as long as you remember home and you want to bring something great and positive that will help build home, I think you should. And I am an interdisciplinary thinker. So I'm always intertwining all aspects of things. And I think, most of the times we don't do things because of fear, right? And one of the things in our culture is the criticism that you get when you try to step out of the box and
Oh,
do
I know it.
things different from the norm.
Mhm.
The world has designed a system for us to be heads down and just going with the flow of everything. It is okay to step off the line and check your surroundings and change directions at any time. You do not have to go with the flow. I'm a rule breaker. I'm a rebellious person, okay? Because if you know my grandmother, you know she didn't stand for nothing. She'll tell you what she have to tell you, and there's no qualms about it. And that's me. And I haven't been this way all my life. I've always wanted to, make sure people are all right. Deflect from confrontations. Don't try me now. This is a soul calling. So if you approve of it or you don't, that's your opinion, that's your prerogative. I have work to do. I have a calling that I have answered to, and everyone has their calling. They just are afraid of what people would say or what people would think. People are going to say and they're going to have their thoughts regardless of what you do.
Yes.
So it's you to follow your calling because, and I'll share this before we go. When I stepped into my previous school, I had a conversation with someone, and every opportunity I got to talk about farming, I would. And they would say, that girl is crazy. My principal told me don't bring no animals to her school. She told me, hey, this is not a thing. Like, look at where we are. Like, plants can grow here. And they doubted. Like, even when I talked about going back to Grenada and, having raised goats pen, people didn't understand what that was. Like, you put in a raised goat pen, like, yeah, because when you elevate the goat pen above the ground, you are able to extract the droppings from the goats, and you're able to use that
As
as your
mentor.
compost and your manure. But sometimes, because people are ignorant in their own right, they would try to detour you from who you were called to be.
I just want to say to you, I am really grateful that you took the time out to speak with me. I am so happy to speak with you. That beautiful smile, that beautiful face has not changed. I am so impressed and happy that you have embraced who you really are. You've not run. Thank God for that nutmeg book that
Yes.
triggered that money making thing in you. I just want to say thank you for being an agent of change in New York, and I know you're going to be an agent of change in Grenada, because you are, in essence, very much honoring your ancestors. Thank you so much for appearing on Starting Over.
You're very welcome. I like to call myself a daughter of the soil, and I will remain that. And it was a pleasure for me to share, my experiences with your community. And starting over is a beautiful thing, guys. Don't be afraid of it. You can start over 1,000,000 times if you need to. That's the beauty of embracing yourself. Change is inevitable, so embrace it. When you need to, you act on it.